Another Captain America, another Hulk, another Marvel movie.
Hello, Adam Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another Hard Review, and I'm here, of course, to talk about Captain America Brave New World. Now, this is the latest MCU movie, following a year where we only had one MCU movie, and it was a Deadpool movie, which we associate with the Fox universe, and is very much so dedicated to the Fox universe, and is in a lot of ways unconnected from a lot of the MCU that we know. We have a year of 3 Marvel movies, and we have a Captain America movie that is coming out in February, Valentine's Day. That's right, lovers, get out there and go arm in arm to watch this political thriller with a big red monster who shows up at the end. I was vaguely anticipating this movie. I had not watched the Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. I just finished it, actually, and I thought that that was alright. I started off hating it, and then interesting things happened. By the end, I was like, that was alright for a little TV show, extra little homework thing, but it's dumb that we have to do homework. That's the thing, though. I don't think you have to do the homework. I was talking to my brother, who doesn't go to the theater all the time, and he said he would be interested in a movie like this normally because he really likes Anthony Mackie and the type of movie that it is, but he was turned off by the fact that it's part of the MCU, and he feels like he would be not in the know, confused about a lot of the things that are going around in the world, and so just rather stay out of it. Which is really tragic for someone like me who is dedicated to the MCU and does see all of the movies, because you can go into pretty much every single Marvel movie with no context and pretty much get it. You guys understand that's the point, right? These big studios are making $200 million movies that you have to see everything else to completely understand it. No, you're fine. You'll be okay. Oh, but if you didn't watch the Captain Falcon show, then you wouldn't know that Captain Falcon Jr. is his little sidekick. No, I got that from here. I understood it pretty well, actually. And if anything, having seen some of the other movies kind of makes this confusing. Thunderbolt Ross is now played by a new guy. I know William Hurt passed away, but still, that's kind of confusing. But if you just go into this for the first time, you're like, yeah, that's Thunderbolt Ross. That being said, one of the cool things about the MCU growing to this extent is that we get to venture off into new things, and I feel bad because the MCU feels so stuck in the past and clinging on to the things that they love so much. For so much of the later half of the MCU, I felt like it was so overly reliant on Iron Man. Spider-Man's Iron Man Jr., everyone's villain is upset with Iron Man and they got their powers somehow via Iron Man, and it's just every single thing needs to be connected to Tony Stark in some kind of way. And now I feel a similar thing about Captain America. I do think it's a natural thing to progress and have Falcon take on the mantle of Captain America, and I like everything that's been handled with that. I think Anthony Mackie is one of the best movie stars that Marvel has right now. I mean, just look at the interviews. He's one of the most fun people in interviews. He's so personable, he's very funny, he can handle the dramatic stuff, he can handle the action stuff, he's very good looking, he has a distinct look. There's so much to love about Anthony Mackie. He's squeaky clean. Love Anthony Mackie. And what they do with his character here I thought was fine. After watching the Captain Falcon show, it's kind of a lot of the same stuff, and I feel like that most of those moral conflicts that he was having internally about becoming Captain America are so much more well handled in that show. It is interesting because that show kind of is his origin movie, and then this movie would be more like his sequel, which kind of makes this movie even worse, because honestly, after watching them back to back, I like the show more. I think the show really lets you have more time to hang out with these characters, get what's going on with them. I understand that it's a television runtime, so it's 6 50-minute episodes, so it's way longer than a movie. It also helped to feel like it was more grounded, it's a completely different thing. This being a big movie, I don't know, it's trying to be this Winter Soldier type summer blockbuster type thing. I mean, it's not even coming out in the summer. It ends with this big CGI fight, and it looks disgusting. The action looks horrible. It's just underwhelming for a movie. I don't know, I think it already is kind of a weird thing to have a sidekick take over the main role of Captain America, who's the main hero in this universe. Obviously, there's another element to this because we're going from Captain America Steve Rogers, who's a white guy, to Anthony Mackie's Captain America, who's a black guy, and we play around with a lot of those racial inequality themes with the character, and that becomes a big talking point. And I think that there are going to be people who are really bigoted and annoying and hate it just because he's black, and that sucks. I think that it is an opportunity to explore themes of racism in America. That also is like quite a downer. Like these are like MCU, like fun MCU movies, and we're dealing with racial inequality. I brought up how this is a lot like Winter Soldier, and it very much so is. I mean, both movies have, you know, Captain America, who's kind of caught in a bind because a person that they have a personal relationship with who has the super soldier serum is going off and doing crimes, like horrible things, and Captain America has to stop them from doing the crimes but not kill them because that's their buddy and they just believe that they're brainwashed or something is going on. And so they have to kind of temper the anger of their allies who are upset with the criminal because he knows that there's something afoot and he's gonna figure it out. And my friend is innocent, I swear. And then the main figurehead, an old white guy who's running like the good guy operation, whether that be SHIELD, whether that be the United States government, you know, they're trying to work out with the Captain America to make sure that we're getting all this done in a good way, but by the end it's gonna be, you know, Captain America versus the old white guy figurehead of the good guy organization. So in a lot of ways it feels the exact same, where Winter Soldier succeeds in a lot of ways that this movie doesn't. I think that one of those main things is that Winter Soldier is very much so like a grounded movie, and I feel like especially during the time period that it came out, that was extremely necessary. Iron Man 3 was pretty grounded and we needed that, especially after the Avengers, which was such a like a huge world-ending alien invasion battle of New York. Captain America the Winter Soldier was shoehorned between Thor the Dark World, which is this fantasy space like epic kind of a thing where we're going through portals and there's dark elves and all this crap, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, which was our first real venture into the zanier Star Wars-y type space, not like the more fantasy type of space that Thor is dealing with. So to have a Captain America movie sandwich in between those where it's like, no, we are on the ground, we're humans, there's guns, there's punching, you know, we're dealing with real world threats for the most part. Obviously there's a lot of stuff that's unrealistic in the Winter Soldier, but it stays pretty grounded, and this tries to do a similar thing, but that's a lot more difficult when, first of all, your main hero flies, and second of all, when it ends with a giant red monster that's fighting a bunch of like flowers, cherry blossom, little pink flowers. Also, I just feel like the Winter Soldier was able to play with these themes more, explore what it means to be Captain America, what Captain America actually stands for, who Captain America actually fights for, and I feel like that was done way better in the Winter Soldier, and here it's just very surface level. I feel like the narrative of this movie wants to feel like it's this big like mystery, but it's all very plainly like set out. This movie hinges on, okay, it's Captain America versus Red Hulk, and Red Hulk doesn't show up until like the third act, and it's like, well, we know that this is where we're leading to the entire time, so it's not like your little espionage, like, ooh, mystery thriller type vibe. Like, I know kind of where everything needs to go, which, so I know what's gonna happen, so I no point was I like, what's going on here? Character that I really want to delve into is Thunderbolt Ross. I think that it's interesting because I talked about how I needed to watch the Captain Falcon the Winter Soldier show to catch up for this movie, but I think that the average Joe would more necessarily need to see the Incredible Hulk to understand this movie than they would need to see Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because the Incredible Hulk, obviously Thunderbolt Ross talks heavily about his experiences in that first Incredible Hulk movie, and then we're talking about Betty a lot, and it's like, whoa, okay, cool. I mean, I thank you for shouting out the Incredible Hulk. And then there's another actor from the Incredible Hulk movies who plays a significant role here, which is played by Tim Blake Nelson, and I think he does a good job. I mean, the character that they're trying to go for is one that has a very distinct visual style, and I think that their interpretation of that character was interesting enough. But Thunderbolt Ross here is recasted as Harrison Ford. There's kind of a scene where they're like, oh, new look. This is in the trailer, and he's like, oh, I was either lose the mustache or lose the election. This is obviously kind of like an Iron Man 2 where Rhodey shows up and he's like, hey, I'm not Terrence Howard anymore. There, I think it was a little cuter than here, because like there, it's like a beginning, like baby steps, kind of like, okay, we're at the start of this like cinematic universe. I'm okay if you guys mess up a little bit at the beginning, because they found their way eventually. Now, I mean, obviously, no one knew William Hurt was gonna die, but like, my big take with Thunderbolt Ross is I just think that Harrison Ford is like an offensive casting for fans. I mean, Marvel is a lot of ways like the Star Wars franchise. I mean, it's kind of like a modern day, like the big action, sci-fi blockbuster franchise, like defining franchise of this generation. And we've seen how Harrison Ford feels about Star Wars, so bringing him into Marvel is like, oh, what are you doing? Because he so actively doesn't care about Star Wars, and even in the interviews for this one, he so actively doesn't care about this. Like, I think someone asked him if he thought that Red Hulk would be able to beat the Green Hulk in a fight, and he obviously was like, I don't care, like, this is stupid. I know a lot of these actors do it for a paycheck, but for them to just blatantly be like, oh, I saw Air Force One, he can play the president, okay, we need the old white guy crowd, because there's gonna be a lot of old white guys who don't watch this movie because Captain America's played by a black guy. That is just a fact, and that's awful and sad. There is a subsect of old white guy who is turned off by the fact that it's a black Captain America, but still will go see it anyways because it's Harrison Ford. I just think that Harrison Ford hasn't really put any effort into the 21st century when it comes to acting. I mean, a lot of people brought up Blade Runner 2049 to me, which, don't get me wrong, he's good in that. Everyone's good in that. But that's not his movie whatsoever. That's Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas' movie. He's very much so an after. He thought he doesn't show up until well over 90 minutes into the movie. Whatever. I mean, he does a fine job, but come on. And then Force Awakens, he's good with what he's doing, but still, it's he doesn't want to be there, guys. He doesn't want to do anything. All of his best stuff is in the 20th century, so I hate seeing him in anything these days. So as a fan of Marvel, getting someone who just actively doesn't give a shit about stuff like this is lazy as all hell. It felt like typecasting. It felt like it was pandering. So no, I didn't like him, and I think his performance is bad. He's so old. He's so obnoxiously old. I don't know. I feel like it shows. I feel like he's lost it. He's a shell of the actor that he used to be, and that's normal. That happens when you get old, but stop starring in my Marvel movie, please. Another actor I want to bring up is Giancarlo Esposito. Plays this snake whatever guy. I don't know his name. It doesn't really matter. I don't like that. I was mad when he was casted in the first place. I think that's super duper lame because he has just been typecast in this villain role ever since he did Breaking Bad. So he's in The Mandalorian as well as a similar type of bad guy. Megalopolis, he's a similar type of bad guy. Just everything, he's this oh, I'm this silent, foreboding, deep voice. He's also in The Boys. He's just done so much shit like this. And here's a little bit more active. Usually he's the, I'm the business guy, who's the mastermind of it all. And here he's doing a lot of shooting and shit. But yeah, it's such an insignificant role. I feel like you could have given it to someone else. And it just felt like a situation of okay, quick, just get who can play this role. Oh, he's done it before. Okay, good. Yeah, there we go. Fucking plug and play. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like this movie's inspired at all. It feels entirely like an obligation, which is really, really sad because Captain America is such a big character and Anthony Mackie has paid his dues and he is such a great movie star. And there's so much possibility for this movie. I really thought this movie's going to do a better job of setting up the Avenger. That's kind of Captain America's job. And even that's a thing that Harrison Ford tells him that he wants him to do in this movie. Set up the Avengers again. And there's no real follow through with that whatsoever. I remember when the MCU was way more concerned with setting up the next thing and they felt like they were always 2 steps ahead. And now it just feels like they're winging it every single time out the gate. I mean, think about how many after credit scenes have just totally not been dealt with. I think one of the more interesting things about this movie is how the Celestial in the Earth is finally solved from the Eternals. We were always well, fuck, that's a weird thing. People are gonna fucking notice that. What's the deal with that? And so for a lot of this movie to center around that, I think that that's a cool thing. And then it's made of adamantium, so now we're ready for the X-Men stuff. Cool, whatever. I think the action's fine. It's just the CGI sucks. I mean, I'm spoiled with the Avatar movies, especially Avatar Way of Water, because I just look at the water in this movie and I'm that's not water. And then just a lot of it just looks uninspiring and bad. I don't know. I think this movie is uninspired. I think it's a complete obligation. I feel like nobody wants to make it. Same thing with Thunderbolts. I think they're only making it because it's well, we have Florence Pugh under contract, so just make her the leader of this mishmash team of we'll get Sebastian Stan and Wyatt Russell, and then what was the villain from that Ant-Man sequel? I don't remember. Throw her in there. So it's kind of rough sledding because this movie is clearly invested in Fantastic Four because there was an IMAX thing beforehand that was the numbers, but it was Fantastic Four themed, which is really interesting because the next movie is Thunderbolts, so shows really where Marvel's eggs are in what basket, Even that movie, I don't know how it's coming out so early. They should delay it till November anyways. I mean, why have all 3 of your Marvel movies come out in the first half of the year? It just doesn't make sense to me. Especially when Fantastic Four has to compete with Superman and all that stuff in the summer. It's just why? The after credit scene in this movie, because there's no mid-credit scene, I won't spoil what it is, but it's so nothing, and it's so clear with the speech that is made in the after credit scene that they have very little idea of what's going on. It's so vague. They're coming. Oh, they. No, not they. I mean, at least it's not a dumb gag, but I don't know. I just feel having a Captain America movie is such a great opportunity to not only establish what's going on politically in the world, more grounded what's going on around us, but also a chance to like bring other heroes together. I didn't really take advantage of that opportunity at all here, and so it was quite a bummer. I don't really think any of the humor in this movie really works for me at all. It's like chuckle-worthy at best. And it feels out of place as well because this is trying to go for that serious thriller type thing. The jokes just feel like corny and cheesy, and most of them are from like Junior Falcon, who I don't really like very much. I mean, he's not like bad, but he just doesn't like leave much of a greater impression. I think he's fine, and I'm fine if he sticks around. I'm actually really excited for what Captain America is going to do going forward. I think that Anthony Mackie will work better as part of an ensemble than he does carrying his own movie. I just wish that they gave him a better script here. He really got shafted here, especially after being in 7 Marvel movies and 2 shows. Yeah, this movie's kind of boring. I almost fell asleep. I wanted to fall asleep. I don't know. This movie made me miss when I was 14 and seeing The Winter Soldier for the first time, you know, being just inspired by this whole MCU universe, and now I'm just like, I feel like they're lost. I feel like they don't know what they're doing. There's no plan. That used to be the best thing about Marvel, is they knew exactly what they're doing. They had the roadmap, they had it all planned out, and now we're just winging it. And that's why I say that it's just another Captain America, it's just another Hulk, and it's just another MCU movie. It's very mid. I'm giving this one a 3 out of 5. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Like, comment, subscribe. Why don't you guys tell me what your favorite Captain America movie is? I haven't seen the original one from the 90s. I believe it's from the 90s, but it's probably bad. I'm going to say that The Winter Soldier is just the best one. I don't know. I like Civil War more just because it's got all the Avengers. I like how Tony is like a pseudo villain in that because I like a good personal villain. I just feel like accomplishes a lot. And even the first Captain America is really, really good. Classic war movie, establishes him really well. I like the look of Red Skull. There's not a bad Captain America movie, unless this one is.